Okay, so good day everyone. No? So for today, we will be discussing about the week 15 to 17 of the human-computer interactions or your topic on your certain course. That would be universal design. Okay, so let's start the discussion. So when we're talking about the universal design principles, ito yung ating mga dapat alalahanin. For example, we have the equitable use, flexibility in use, simple and initiative to use, perceptible information, tolerance for error, low physical effort, and size and the space for approach and use. So these things are very important when we're talking about the universal design. We're talking about yung kabuuan dito. Kabuuang layout of the designs that we're talking about the principle. So itong nandito, yung 2, 4, 6, 7 na to, 7 principles are very important. So each of them are really very important when we are evaluating a design. So in terms of universal design kasi, marami-rami na yan. So meron tayong tinatawag na multi-sensory systems. So what are these multi-sensory systems? So it's more than one sensory channel in interactions. Example, sounds, text, hypertext, animation, video, and gestures, vision. So those are examples. No? Then we have in the use range of applications, particularly good for user with special needs and virtual reality. Followed by will cover, it would be the general terminology that would be followed by speech, non-speech sounds, and handwriting. Considering application as well as principles. So ano mga ba itong multi-sensory systems? So it's part of a channel interactions. So itong mga to, commonly ginagamit for video animation, including the text or the layouts, gestures, effects. Okay, so virtual reality. So most of the range applications are condemned to be considered. So multi-sensory system. Sa ngayon, yung mga virtual realities and even yung augmented realities are considered in a multi-sensory system of the universal design. It would be followed by usable senses. So we have 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell are used by us every day. So lahat naman to ginagamit natin. No? These sensors are very important, especially in this natural world. So to provide fuller interaction, we need these 5 senses. Ang ulit yung limang yan: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. So computers rarely offer such a rich interaction. Dati, oo. Ang ginagamit lang yan is to touch the sound and sight. But for taste and smell can be considered in terms of iba naman yan, sa pagkain naman yan. Can we use all the available senses? Ideally, yes. Practically, no. Because 2 of those senses cannot be considered when you are doing designs and graphics. Taste and smell. Iba nga lang yung interpretation sa taste. Taste of graphics, taste of design. Because we're talking about the textures, the layouts. So we can use sight, sound, touch sometimes, but we cannot use the taste and smell. Multimodal and multimedia. So how do we differentiate the two? When we are talking about multimodal systems, it is your use more than one sense or mode of interactions. So visual and aural senses, text processor may speak the words as well as echoing them to the screen. Yung multimedia system naman is composed of video, animation, text, different media, visual interaction, may also use sounds, both speech and non-speech. So yung mga nakikita nyo sa YouTube, we call it multimedia systems. Mga videos, animation, including text. Ano naman yung multimodal system? Interaction naman to, visual and aural senses. Okay, so ang multimodal, sense or mode of interaction. Ano tong mga sample nito? Pwedeng sabihin natin yung mga tinatawag nating interactive games. Okay? Yung mga ginagamitan na ng mga interactions or motion senses or sensors. Then we have the speech naman. Human being have a great and natural mastery of speech makes it difficult to appreciate the complexities, but it is an easy medium for communication. Okay? Yung speech naman talaga is literal na for communication purposes. It is a pathway to communicate with others. What are the structures of this speech when we're talking about the universal design? Meron tayong tinatag na phonemes with each 40 of them, basic atomic units. So, sound slightly different depending on the context they are in and these larger units are. Then we have the allophones naman. So, it's between 120 and 130 to them. So, all the sounds in the language. Tono, pinag-uusapan natin dito. So, the structural speech, for example, magkakaiba ang tono ng Bisaya sa Ilocano, sa Cebuano, at higit sa lahat sa Pampangueño. So, itong mga to, they are doing some structures of speech. Then we have morphemes, smallest unit of language that has a meaning. So other terminology can be helpful for you to identify, for example, prosody, articulation, and syntax. Okay, so these are stress post speech. This is part of the speeches naman. Okay, so other terminologies lang to. Then we have the speech recognition problem. Marami na tayong application na ginawa sa computer na using speech recognition. Okay? For example, meron din tayong text to word. Ano yan? Meron naman text to speech. Okay? Text to word, text to speech, that it can converted into a speech yung tinype mong words or statement. Meron din tayong tinatawag na speech recognition. Si Google meron ng speech recognition. You're saying something, it will be recorded or it would be verified and checked and determined kung ano yung sinasabi nyo. Ganun din si Facebook Live, meron na rin. Nagpe-Facebook Live si Sir, tapos yung mga sinasabi ko, nai-interpret. It's because of the user interface and artificial intelligence of the universal design of the application right now. So the different people speaks differently. The accent, intonation, the stress, idiom, volume, and etc. So as you all know, meron tayong tinatawag na artificial intelligence that can monitor this. In terms of the accent, the intonation, stress, idioms, even the volume. So the syntax of semantically similar sentence may vary. Background noises can interfere, kaya nga meron tayo ngayong mga types of application na created to have a noise cancellation. Bukod dun sa saan? Sa mga camera na may microphone na merong noise cancellation or even headset with noise cancellation. But meron din tayong application na ganyan na nagpipilter ng mga noise. So background noise can interfere. So yun, yung mga tilaok ng manok, tahol ng aso, yung wrestling ng mga pusa. So people often semantics needed as well. Semantic needed as well requires intelligence to understand a sentence. Context of the utterance often has to be known. Also information about the subject and the speaker. So words not enough actually, but sometimes the visual could be enough. Kasi may mga people na visual learner. Yung nakikita, yung output. Or dapat may text na pinapakita para naiintindihan nila. Sometimes speech recognition also. Phonetic typewritten. So it was being developed to finish a phonetic language written as it is said. Trained on one speaker will generalize to others. A neural network is trained to cluster together similar sounds which are then labeled with the corresponding character. So when recognizing a speech, phonetic typewritten can be also helpful. Ayun. So these are the phonetic typewritten. If you are very familiar with typewriter, familiar ba kayo sa typewriter? Siyempre, ang typewriter is, ano ba ang structure ng typewriter? Ito by QWERTY, parang keyboard. Yes, somehow, no? Kasi dati iba pa ang typewriter, is alphabetical. Pero noon, medyo okay. Tapos, wala nang typewriter masyado. We depend on the computers. So, the speech recognition, is it useful? Yes, it can be useful. Especially for those utilize visually impaired people. Mga bulag. Okay? Warning signals also. It could be very useful. Spoken information sometimes presented to pilot whose visual and haptic skills are already fully occupied. It could be helpful. Itong mga speech recognition na to. Lalo na pag may problema sa mata, impaired or visually impaired. So non-speech sounds like boings, bangs, squeaks, clicks, etc. commonly used for warnings and alarms. So this design of these sounds are very helpful. Alam niyo na yan, mga ringtone, by mga tunog ng mga cellphones, it can be very helpful sa inyo. Tunog ng mga notifications. So evidence to show they are useful. Fewer of typing mistake with the key clicks, video games harder without sound, language, culture independent unlike the switch. So those sounds and alarms are very helpful. Especially pag alam niyo na yung mga tunog. Sa memory nga, di ba? Meron tayong tinatawag na alarm ng CPU na pag tumunog yon ng 2 beses, it's either may problem sa kung anong parts ng mga computer for you to determine what is the problem inside the computer. So non-speech sounds, is it useful? Sa dual mode display, information presented along two different sensory channels, redundant presentation of the information, resolution of ambiguity in one mode through information in another. So meaning when we're talking about dual mode display, it should be very useful in terms of non-speech sounds. About sounds good for transient information, background status, and so on and so forth. So sound can be used as a redundant mode in the Apple, Macintosh, okay, majority of the operating system of the Macintosh or Apple. So sounds good for transient information. So sa non-speech sounds, it is very useful also. Auditory icons. What are the auditory icons? It is used natural sounds to represent different types of object or actions. Natural sounds have associated semantics which can be mapped onto similar meanings in the interaction. Sounds of smashing a glass. Okay, in PowerPoint presentation, meron tayong mga tinatawag na ano bang tawag dito, yung mga content ng sounds for effects, okay, to monitor and to attract the users, okay, to get the attention span of it. So use of stereo allows positional information to be added. So auditory icons is very important also, no? Lalo na pagdating doon sa aspeto ng may mga problema sa visually impaired. How about the SonicFinder to the Macintosh? SonicFinder in the Macintosh is a type of application. So anong ginagawa nito? Unang-una, it takes action on the desktop have associated with sounds. So folders have papery noise, moving files, dragging sound, copying problem, big files have louder sound than smaller ones. So yung Sonic Finder is like a help. Okay? It's like a help in the Windows operating system. But how it differs? It differs through a unique sounds that it was been given every time that you are finding for an application. So that is for the Macintosh, yung mga Apple. Then we have the earcons. Okay, these are synthetic sound used to convey information. So it is used structured combination of notes called motives to represent actions and objects. So motives combine to provide rich information. Compound earcons combine different motives to build up a specific action. For example, combining the motives for create and file. So what are earcons? Naka-base dyan, it is a synthetic sound. Okay, pag sinabing synthetic sound, it is like a organic or it's like a provided sounds. Okay, to provide rich in information. Sound effects. Okay, yung mga sound effects na meron tayo, especially yung mga recorded sound effects like thunder, lightning, and even the howl ng mga hayop, mga sounds ng hayop. Okay, so for example, this one is when we are creating the earcons. the text string of it is would be the same as the the notes that is being given in some music patterns. So we have the family icons. It is represented compound. Okay, so similar types. Example would be operating system error, syntax error, o yung mga task manager error. So icon easily group and refine due to compositional and hierarchical nature. Okay, so harder to associate with the interface task since there is no natural mapping. So maririnig nyo naman yan eh, di ba? Yung pag nag-error yung operating system, yung pag tumunog na deng, yung ganon. Kaya yung nag-crash, okay, yung mga sounds ng tipong nagkaroon ng fatal error with the operating system, blue screen, system down, and including yung mga some types of errors that can alarm or buzz the operating system. How about touch? The touch is the use of touch in the interface is known as haptic interaction. So there are two areas. Una, cutaneous perception, tactile sensation, vibration on the skin, meaning it's for feelings. Kinesthetics would be the position and movement, force feedback. So nandito yung shape, texture, and resistance, temperature, comparative, spatial factors. So what are the example technologies here? Meron tayong tinatawag na electronic braille displays, force feedback devices, phantom resistance, and texture. Even the motion sensors. Yung mga Arduino devices are motion sensors. So handwriting recognition. In the handwriting recognition, marami na rin tayong ginawang types of application na meron dito. So in handwriting is another communication mechanism which we are used to in day-to-day life. So for example, in technology, handwriting. Okay, the handwriting consists of complex strokes and spaces captured by digitizing tablets. Strokes transform to sequence of dots. Meron tayong tinatawag na large tablets available, suitable for digitizing maps and technical drawings. So for the technology right now, mga animators gumagamit sila ng mga tinatawag nating digitized tablet. Sa mga digitized tablet na to, not only to to create drawings but also to interact. Okay, to interact and also to create some advanced object designing, models, and including animations. So marami yan. May mga Wion and then merong mga Wacom tablets can be considered in handwriting recognition. Okay, dati kasi mahirap pag walang pen eh, no? So ngayon, we have tinatawag na mga tablets that can help us to do handwriting recognition also, including some sensors of it. So the drawings, we have smaller device, some incorporating things like PDAs, Palm Pilot, and including tablet PCs, yung mga, including mga tablet PCs like in Lenovo, Dell, or even in Apple, yung mga iPad na yan. So what are the common problems that can be seen in handwriting? Una, there should be a personal difference in letter formation. So ayan, magkakaiba ng interface. For articulation and effects, not only in effects but also in the whole content. The breakthroughs of that would be stroke, not just a bitmap. Special alphabet, meron din mga graffiti including texture, layouts, graphics, objects, and including yung mga tinatawag nating special effects. Okay, so current state, usable even without training, but many preferred keyboard also. Why do you are preparing keyboard in terms of typing? Siyempre, keyboard is generated for typing. Dati kasi wala namang mouse. Majority of controls of the operating systems are in keyboard. In using of structural design. So using the DOS base. Now, yung DOS base na to was the first operating system created by Microsoft. And this Microsoft is generally doing command line interface or doing typing commands to operate the computer, not by using click and drag. Okay, yung click and drag kasi dati pa yan. Okay, mga panahon ng siguro around 90s was been developed by mouse. Pero dati naman kasi walang mouse, they're using keyboard and yung tinatawag nating touchpad. Okay, so yung nasa laptop. Okay, then we have the gesture. You're very familiar with gesture kasi marami na ring kinds of games has been developed into an interactive games. And those type of interactive games are can be considered in the applications, the gestural input. Okay, may mga sign language din na nakakapag-detect. Technology, data glove, position sensing devices, the benefits for natural form of interactions, the pointing, enhanced communication between signing and non-signing users. So the problem should be user-dependent variables and issues of co-articulation. So in terms of gestures, motion sensors can be considered. Di ba meron na yan, yung Wii, yung PlayStation, lalo na yung mga Just Dance, yung mga naaano nyo dun sa mga laruan sa SM, sa Waldokpan. So they're using gesture sensors. No? Marami na rin tong interactive na ganyan na types of designs and layouts. So the user with these abilities can be considered. Meron tayong tinatawag na visual impairments. Screen readers sa SonicFinder ang pwedeng gamitin niya. Hearing impairment, text communication, gesture, and caption through the use of typing. Physical impairment naman, we have speech, eye gaze, gestures, predictive system, or reactive keyboard. Kung may problema sa hindi nakakagalaw yung mga kamay. Speech impairment naman is text communication through typing. Dyslexia, we have speech input and output, autism, communication, and education. So this type of user disabilities can be cured with the help of this universal design. Bakit? Marami na kasing generated na technology na nakatulong sa kanila. Okay, to understand, to learn, okay, to communicate with others, and to have their proper education. So the designing for different age group and cultural differences also would vary. Age group. Siyempre, pag older people, disability aids, memory aids, communication tools to prevent social isolation. Siyempre, iba ang level ng expertise ng matatanda sa mga bata. Pero minsan sa computer, magagaling na mga bata kumpara sa nakakatanda. So those part of the age groups. Cultural differences naman. Meron naman mga tinatawag na influence of nationality, generation, the gender, the race, sexuality, class, religion, political, persuasion, etc. On interpretation of the interface features. Meron tayong mga bansa na hindi pa rin dependent sa technology at sila ay nahuhuli. So these types of usability, or we call it the HCI or the human-computer interactions, usable designs, hindi sila familiar. Okay, so unlike tayo, medyo kahit papano, may mga tablet, cellphones tayo na may Android operating system or even iOS operating system or even the Windows operating system. Familiar tayo kung anong interfaces meron siya at kung ano yung mga kayang gawin. Unlike yung iba, literal na no technology at all. So it would vary the age and group, even the cultural differences. So in short, there should be a big effects. What do you mean by big effects? It would help us to determine what types of disabilities for a specific people and types of application that can help him or her. Kaya nga, in talking about universal design, it's very important in the human-computer interaction or in the psychology that it would be very helpful for a person to use a technology for him to achieve knowledge, okay, and satisfaction, or including learning outcomes. So in short, napakahalaga ngayon ng mga ginagamit natin technology na yan para sa mga disabled people, but not only on disabled people, but also in different cultures and age groups. Okay, so that would be the topic for today. Do you have any question?